What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. And today we're talking about AJ Green. A lot of people have questions. Do we trust him? I mean, do we want to take that chance on him here in 2020? Does he have Joe Burrow under center? Are the Bengals improved? A lot of questions coming about AJ Green, and deservedly so. He's one of the best wide receivers in all of football when he's healthy. The problem is he's not healthy very often. I've been getting a lot of questions about AJ Green. Where do we value him? And I found it tough for me to come up with an answer. So I found a solution. What are we going to do? It's time for our second installment of What's Up, Doc, bringing in Dr. Ethan Turner to find out whether we should trust AJ Green or not. All right, so welcome back in, Dr. Ethan Turner, and we're talking about AJ Green. But before we get into AJ Green, Ethan, how you holding up out there in quarantine life?
You know, quarantine life is going pretty well, Jake. I've kind of embraced your motto of just kind of letting it go with the hair. My barber is closed. I can see that, you know, you and I kind of have a similar philosophy of just kind of letting her grow out, and really just, just embracing the flow, as I like to say. So I think that I should be able to get a haircut at some point. I actually saw my barber in the Walmart the other day, and I was at the point where I was like, dude, what do I need to pay for you to show up at my house to cut my hair? And he would not do it. So, you know, it's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly. It's probably already ugly. If you think my hair is ugly, you know, that's okay. That's okay.
There's a lot of people with ugly hair in the world right now.
There really is. There really is. You know,
I mean, I've never had the opportunity to run my fingers through my hair. As you can tell, it's not exactly what you would call thick, but still, I just take care of mine myself. Go in the shower. It's kind of gone right around in here, so I don't have to worry about that spot. But everything else, you know, I take care of myself.
I mean, I think that's probably where I'm going to be at here pretty quick. I am definitely a little concerned that I'm going to have to go full man bun here, pull it back. I'm almost there. I'm almost in man bun territory. I'm going to be that kind of hip doctor that looks like I don't know how to take care of myself, but we're just going to let her roll.
All right. Comment below if you want to see the man bun. But for now, let's talk about AJ Green a little bit. This is somebody who has a laundry list, you know, of injuries throughout his career, some minor, some major. Did not play at all in 2019. Struggled with turf toe prior to that. I mean, AJ Green is a polarizing name. A lot of people know the talent, but they're just too worried to trust it. Is AJ Green somebody from your perspective that we should just avoid altogether? I mean, what do you see when you look at the injury history of AJ Green?
Well, the history is definitely concerning. I don't think we can deny the talent when he's on the field. I mean, he is one of probably the best 10 wide receivers on the planet. But we haven't seen that guy since probably 2016. We saw a little bit in 2017, but 2016 ended on IR. 2018 again with a turf toe. And then last year didn't play at all. So we've seen over time his injuries, go from a few minor things to all of a sudden he's missing an entire season with an injury that typically doesn't take a player out for an entire season. So he's definitely a player. I don't like to use the word injury prone. I think that phrase is a little overused, but he's definitely a player that his injury risk is much, much higher than the average wide receiver.
Yep, and you hit it on the head when you talk about how great of a wide receiver he is. I mean, any season he's played over 10 games, he's had at least 1,000 yards. It's just getting him to that 10-game mark, which is the hardest part of all of it. I mean, I know with him sitting out all of last year, in my mind, the way I kind of look at it, and I'm by no means close to a doctor, but I don't think that they franchise AJ Green and even pay him that if they're that concerned about it. In my opinion, they do that as like a show-me deal, get him back out there on the field. I don't think anybody knows any better than the staff of the Cincinnati Bengals, and them bringing him back in for that year gives me a little bit of hope that maybe he should be good to go with possibly a new franchise quarterback here in 2020.
Yeah, and I think that it's definitely going to be a case of this is a prove-it deal. Now, whether or not he decides to play on that is still kind of to be seen. I think that they're trying still to work out a long-term deal with him. But I also feel like the way that last season went, there might be a little bit of hesitancy both by him and by the team to really put a significant investment in Green. From his perspective, obviously, I think he wanted to come back at some point last season. The team was playing for a number one overall pick, so they didn't necessarily, whether they meant to or not, didn't necessarily want to risk their team getting particularly better in the last few games of the season. So we don't know. Maybe he was ready and he opted to he made that vocal and they said, you know what, we're gonna just let you sit. We're gonna let you heal up. We got plans for you. We're going to call this season a wash, get ourselves a franchise quarterback. And they definitely have a pretty solid franchise quarterback staring them in the face with whoever they choose at 101. As long as it's a guy like Burrow or Tua, I think you're in a pretty good spot. Personally, I think you go with the safe bet and you go with Burrow. But that's good news for AJ Green, or you at least would think it would be good news for AJ Green.
Yep, 100%. Now, AJ Green's a great route runner. He really excels at contested catches. I mean, that's kind of what he's known for, catching the ball in traffic, going up and, high pointing the ball. Are these prior injuries that he's had, the turf toe, the ankle injuries, do you think that by the time the season rolls around here in 2020 that there should be any major limitations as of right now?
My hope is that no, there wouldn't be any immediate limitations. The turf toe is something that he's dealt with a few times in his career. He had a bout of it in 2014, and then obviously in 2018, most recently. He did end up having surgery on that. And so, with turf toe, typically, let's just call it what it is. He sprained his big toe. A lot of times, I think we hear that we hear turf toe, and everyone uses it very casually, but then I don't feel like a lot of people really understand like what turf toe is. And basically, what happens is the big toe. Um, it happens more often in turf because it has no give, and so the receiver steps back and bends their toe up, and it actually tears the capsule and the ligaments underneath the bottom of the big toe. So on the foot, the bottom of the foot, that toe basically tears. And so when that happens, it hurts a lot. It does not feel good. What you see in the video, you see him when he does that, it's instant. He falls. When I watched it the first time, I thought he tore his Achilles because instantly fell to the ground in a ton of pain. And so with this turf toe, typically with the surgery, they'll kind of tie everything back together. It'll heal up, and it's usually pretty good to go after the surgery. As far as the ankle sprain last year, that one I'm a little bit more concerned about long term, just because he did end up having surgery on it. They described it as a minor surgery. Here's the thing with that injury. There's not really much for me to go off of. It happened in the preseason. Right. It was a practice injury. There is a video out there. It's from like somebody from the stands,
like a bootleg video,
100 feet away with a vertical video, and you see the play and you can't tell what's going on with his ankle. There's players in the way. There's just no way for me to use that in my analysis. And so all we know is that he had a major ankle sprain. He did have surgery. It was described as a cleanup. Whether or not it was just a cleanup is to be decided. The problem is that with a cleanup surgery, typically you think they just like go in there and flush some stuff out and then it's good to go. But an arthroscopic surgery on the ankle could mean anything. It could be a total ligament reconstruction. It could be literally just what I described, where they just go in and flush everything out and shave down the bones to make sure that it's all smooth so that it heals nicely. We don't know exactly what they did when they went in there, so I have to assume that it was major because he did end up missing the entire season. As far as his explosion, I think he's at 100% healed. Will his explosion be what it was prior to those two injuries? There's no way to know for sure. He's getting up there in age. That's going to play a factor. Is he going to be as explosive as he was before? Probably not. Right. Probably not. But he still can rely on some of these, what I call old man wide receiver skills, which are his incredible route running. He's still pretty fast for the position. He's still 6'4". And so those things are the ways that he's going to continue to win. even if he doesn't necessarily have that huge burst that made him,
Right.
an elite wide receiver.
Yep. All right. So two questions, and the first one, we kind of touched on it earlier, dynasty related. What would you do with AJ Green if you're on a dynasty roster? Do you try to capitalize on the fact that, hey, they're bringing in Joe Burrow? He should be 100% healthy. He's on the franchise contract. He's going to prove himself, and try to sell him for whatever you can get right now in dynasty?
I don't think right now is the best time to sell in dynasty. I do think eventually you probably should be trying to sell AJ Green. He is older. He does have a long injury history. And despite the fact that I do love Joe Burrow as a prospect, you can see that the end is maybe an injury away for AJ Green. And those are not the kind of guys that I like to have on dynasty teams. We're reaching a point almost to where there's no value. You're losing value by trying to trade AJ Green. And so to me, I think you wait for the season. You wait for the hype of Joe Burrow to begin growing, if that is the pick that they make. And you wait for the hype of AJ Green to continue growing back to similar to what it was. He has, basically right before the season is when, as long as he's healthy, I would be trying to ship him in most dynasty leagues. Even if I was a contender, I feel like you're probably going to get peak value for the rest of his career is going to be right at the beginning of this season, because you're building on the hype of Burrow. You're building on the hype of Green. You're building on the fact that he's had almost 2 years, basically a full year to recover. And you package all that together and you say, AJ Green, 2021 first, or AJ Green, I want, a solid piece and a pick, and that's how you maximize value for a guy like Green in dynasty. Now in redraft, might be a little bit different of a story, especially from a value standpoint, because I do think you're going to get a discount with him because of the injury, because of the uncertainty at quarterback, because of the uncertainty in general for AJ Green. I think that if it's me, there's never a price that I won't pay for an injured player or a player coming back from injury in redraft specifically, because eventually everyone's a value. Eventually you're going to have a value. And I always say, as long as you're getting an injury discount, it might be worth investing in that player, because if he's healthy, he's Joe Burrow's number one wide receiver. That offense is purring, and you are thrilled in redraft. Dynasty, having him forever, probably not my flavor. Probably looking to trade him. But redraft, I think he's going to be a value this year.
Yeah, I don't really hate him. I mean, especially because when you think about it, he's probably going to fall somewhere in that 4th, 5th, 6th round range, depending on what kind of league you're in. And I'm sure in home leagues he'll fall even farther because people just look at the name and be like, the guy's always hurt. But he's definitely somebody that has some value, especially if you want to go heavy running back early in a draft. He's kind of one of those guys that has a super high ceiling if he can stay healthy, that if he is 100% healthy, will help carry your roster, especially if you waited on wide receiver. But he's definitely somebody who we need to pay attention to this offseason, right? He's somebody that we don't want to ignore. We don't want to just write him off because of the past. There's a good opportunity for not just AJ Green, but for the Bengals to be much improved. I mean, they got back last year's first-round pick. Jonah Williams is back. We Tyler Boyd is there. Joe Mixon in the backfield. I mean, he was running great the end of 2019. They have some decent pieces. They've added to the defense. This is the team that's going to be a lot better, I believe, in 2020. And AJ Green coming out on a prove-it deal, like I said, he can stay healthy. It's definitely something to take into account. So I appreciate you coming out here and letting us know what your thoughts are on AJ Green. By all means, make sure everybody goes and follows you on Twitter, because you put out all kinds of good little nuggets all the time on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, A, you should be, and B, you should be following Ethan. I mean, his handle's right there on the screen, eTurner, FF_PT. Make sure you go check him out. And then Ethan also does a rookie injury guide. Do you want to explain that to the people real quick, Ethan?
Yeah, so this is getting ready to drop here. I've been meticulously working on it. Basically, what I do is what nobody else in the business is willing to do, which is go back and look at these NFL prospects and find injury histories for them. I'll say it on this show. I say it all of the time. The best predictor that we have of future injuries for these players is understanding their history. And so it is the best predictor of future injuries. So The problem I had was that every time I would go to look for a player's injury history, I would have maybe their NFL history. And then I would say, well, they've been playing football since they were 6 years old. And I won't find things from Pee Wee football, but if it's a major injury in high school, I can usually find that. So what I've done is I've collected all those injuries. I've put them, it'll be in a very nice guide. The guide is $12, but if you order now, and you DM me and basically say, hey, I heard you on the Fantasy Headliners. I want access to this injury data. I've already got 71 players done, offense and defense. So if you play IDP, I've got some defensive guys in there too. My hope is to have about 150 by the time it's all said and done. After the NFL draft, I'm adding about 50 more, but I'll have 100 guys done for this guide. And if you order it now through us, through the Headliners, I'll give you access to the data and the guide for $10. I normally sell it for 12. You're paying basically just for me to find this stuff. The info is all public knowledge, but nobody is willing to go put in the work that I put into. It takes me about 30 minutes a prospect to actually go find these injury histories, and you're going to get all of that data to use for your rookie drafts, for this offseason, for redraft. You're getting it all for $10. I mean, there's no better value, I think, in fantasy football right now, because honestly, this is the only place you can get this stuff. So $10, that's a steal.
Hey, if you weren't a doctor, you'd be a dang good salesman, Ethan, because you're making me want to go buy one.
I mean, I think you should. It really is unique in this fantasy industry. And it is, for me, in Dynasty, it was the difference between taking Christian McCaffrey over Leonard Fournette and the difference between taking Nick Chubb over Sony Michel over the last 2 years. So this could be the difference for you between a top 5 Dynasty asset and maybe somebody that is hurt or is not able to stay on the field for you. So if you're in any kind of Dynasty league for money, it's worth investing the $10. That's all I'm going to say.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Make sure you guys go check that out. And also want to kind of open this up and be interactive. Me and Ethan are going to be dropping videos like this off and on. We did one for Tua a few weeks back. We're going to continue to do this throughout the offseason and all the way through the regular season. If there's a player out there that you'd like some information on, throw it down below in the comment section. Maybe, like each other's comments, and whoever these top players that you guys are looking for, those are the videos we'll start to look at and make for you guys out there. Want to make sure you guys are involved in that also. That's what we pride ourselves on, is being as interactive as possible. So Ethan, thanks once again for your time. It was fun. Enjoy the hair. Hopefully it continues to grow. The next time we do this, it may be a man bun. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe. I mean, make sure you, for no other reason, subscribe to the channel for that, just to come back and see the man bun for Ethan. But hopefully you guys have a great rest of your night, great rest of your week. For Ethan and myself, you guys have a great one. We'll talk to you later. Thanks.